Hey, everybody. Welcome to our podcast, Pattern Unboxed, the podcast, where we kind of talk all things e-commerce and dive into some of the really smart people that work here at Pattern and learn more about them and more about what they're working on. And our guest today, Newell, how about you introduce yourself and tell us your role?
I'm Newell Cobb. I am a VP over AI. I didn't come from AI and engineering. I actually came from e-commerce business management. So I used to be a pattern brand manager. I was at Walmart where I was a category specialist back in the day
Nice.
when those were roles. But yep, that's my background.
Cool. And so you said you didn't start in AI. Obviously, you oversee AI now. So can you like walk us through how you got to becoming like the AI guy at Pattern? Because from what I understand, it's like if you're talking AI, Newell's the guy.
Well, you definitely have to do your homework and do your research. But what a lot of business managers kind of neglect when they're thinking about whether or not they can do AI is they go, oh, I have to understand exactly how these systems work in order for me to leverage them. But it's almost like if AI is an artificial brain, you don't need to be a neuroscientist to be a good people manager.
Sure.
So like yeah, like understanding how the brain works is helpful to be a good people manager, but you can become a good people manager by working with people, self-evaluating. Well, AI is kind of no different. You can do the same thing with AI where even though you may not understand what's going on underneath the hood 100%, you can manage the AI and learn to be better at it in the same way you've learned to be better at managing people in your career.
Got it. And I feel like these past, it's probably been like 2 years out, everybody's talking about AI. Like we can't do a podcast without mentioning AI. Big Art Accelerate, all about AI. Obviously, people were into AI years ago, probably like 10. When did you get into AI and like what were you into growing up? Were you just like really into computers and that's how you always had an interest in it?
Nope, nope. I mean, I I played the occasional video game.
Okay, your gamer vibes.
Yeah, like with friends. I was never like an online gamer by any means. I can't do that. It's you if you don't win, like there's no. It's always one next game, and I don't know how to stop. So I just never got myself into that. But what it really was for me was I really do like working with people, and what I really like, that sounds counterintuitive because I work with a lot of AI now, but I also work with people. But I really like breaking down processes and like understanding them. So like I was the guy that was like, okay, how do we plan the school dance? How do we do all the logistics? And like those are the types of roles that are really e-commerce and retail specific roles, right? Like how do I make all of these things happen at the same time, and how do I break it down into manageable chunks? And when ChatGPT kind of had this like little renaissance back in November of 2022, um, because I didn't have, I was a data analyst at the time, but because I didn't have the years and years of machine learning and AI background, I was more treating this thing like it was a remote employee, maybe like an intern level remote employee. And so I was just going, well, how would I do my job better if I had 30 intern level remote employees? So once you get to where you can break down the problems and work with these, remote employees, and just like a remote employee, like they can't go to your warehouse, maybe they can't call someone on the phone, but everything else, whether it's using Google, using Microsoft Excel, if you can do it on a computer, AI can do it. So that's kind of how I got into AI, was taking all of the business processes that I knew and started breaking them down into little chunks that these remote AI workers can handle.
Got it. And then in terms of AI and pattern, can you kind of give us a little deep dive into how we are implementing it? Because, I mean, me specifically, I'm like the farthest from AI. I do content and I did sales before that. So, like for the very layman's, like, can you just dumb it down for what it's doing for pattern and how it's making our partners more money?
I feel like AI is still trying to like we're still trying to fully define like what starts and stops at the scope of AI. So in 2017, there was this kind of breakthrough paper about the transformer model, and that is the basis of these large language models. And so think of the large language model as someone who's really good at thinking out loud and talking out loud. And that really only started to really kick off in 2017. But at Pattern, we've been using AI for years. If you define AI as just systems that learn and get better. And so we've been doing machine learning for years, especially when it comes to like advertising and ordering. And so really Pattern, our history is in our data. And you can almost think of there being several different types of AI, specifically with the models that people are most familiar with, like language models. What we use for them is we use a lot of like reasoning and data labeling. So imagine I've got 10,000 SKUs at Amazon, and each of them have a tax code associated with what type of product they are. You could have AI go through all 10,000 and kind of think out loud and go, oh, is this the right tax code? And that could help make sure that your Amazon fees are right, or make sure that you're paying the right amount of taxes or saving money on taxes. That's like one little itty bitty example, but effectively it's going through all of the data and labeling it. So imagine if you were trying to buy a house and you were trying to figure out like, oh wow, like how should I market this house? Well, if you knew all of the houses in the neighborhood or all of the houses in the city and everything that was labeled about them, like do they have a basement? Is it a finished basement? Is it a Tudor style home? Is it a half is it a like whatever that you could think about how to label the house, that would be like the type of thing that an AI could go in and label so that you can make a smarter decision about how you position it. So we're pretty much doing that. We're having the AI label millions of products and millions of kind of attributes across these products so that we can forecast better, write content better, position our brand partners better, etc.
With all of our services right now, because obviously Pattern, we're an accelerator and we do a lot of things from logistics all the way to TikTok videos, right? And creating content. Right now, where do you think AI is making the biggest impact? Is it in our advertising? Is it in the logistics? Is it in our content generation? And then also, where do you see AI as a whole? What side of Pattern do you think is going to be turbo boosted the most?
Okay, so this is a funny question because I honestly believe that the side that's going to be turbo boosted the most is the side where we have the most amount of Pattern employees getting involved with AI.
Okay.
And what I mean by that really is AI is weirdly able to do a lot of things really well. And so I had a guy in my office yesterday from the warehouse. And at the warehouse, we were talking about how if we don't double seal like liquids and creams and soaps and stuff like that, they can sometimes leak. And so a big part of our warehouse processing steps were making sure that this is a product that needs a double seal, or is this a glass product, or is this a product that melts? And so we were talking about having AI go across the web, find all the information about the product, figure it out, and then check the reviews and see if maybe we're doing it wrong. That is something that is completely different than the other team at Pattern that might be using this to make TikTok videos.
Sure.
And completely different than another team at Pattern. I had another guy in my office yesterday that was talking about business reach out, how to make podcasts that were custom to specific brands. So imagine I'm reaching out to a CMO versus a COO. One might be way more interested in logistics, where another one may be way more interested in customer psychographics. So to really answer the question in one line, it's whichever teams at Pattern adopt AI the most will be the teams where AI has the greatest impact, which really just implies that it's going to impact everything.
Got it. And then outside of Pattern, obviously Pattern's a big part of the e-commerce ecosystem, but as a whole with e-commerce, what trends do you see happening? And then obviously with AI impacting those as well.
Yeah, I don't see AI like curing cancer anytime soon.
Sure.
Or like figuring out how to go faster than light. Like space, like I don't see it doing a lot of like those very novel new inventions anytime soon. That's a real possibility. We've yet to sort of see AI come up with something novel. People always talk about like AI being like everyone's personal assistant. So think about if I've got a warehouse in Texas that because of tariffs is trying to find a new supplier of a material. Maybe the AI goes and does the Google search of all the possible alternatives, and maybe it calls them and gets quotes and calculates tariffs. That's like the type of administrative work that you can absolutely expect in the future. And so hopefully we kind of like, right, we called the agricultural revolution like the agricultural revolution because agriculture became more available, and we called the internet revolution the information revolution because like information became more available. And like you could call this the AI revolution, or you could just call this a kind of a furthering of that information revolution, because if I have information in the next room over but I'm not aware of it, it kind of doesn't matter. And so like the idea is that if AI can do the extra work of doing the Google search, of doing the research, of summarizing all of the data, that could really help make information more at people's fingertips than even the introduction of the internet into the economy.
Is there anything in your personal life that you're like, you walk around, you're like, damn, I can't wait for AI to take care of that for me?
Yeah, self-driving for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, totally self-driving. But the thing about self-driving is that's a different type of model than a language model. So you know how I talked about how there's different types of models. Language models are really good at reasoning and thinking out loud. Self-driving, like for example, the way Tesla's doing it is and I don't even know if I agree with this, but what they're doing is they're just feeding the models images and video, and then the car is making a decision. So it's not like in traditional code, you might have like a rule, and the rule is like, if there's a cliff on the left side of the road, don't drive over the cliff. And like you could imagine like as a programmer, you're like, I really want to put that rule in. The Tesla approach is to not even bother putting that rule in and put everything into this machine learning model and kind of just trust the AI. So I would say I'm excited for that. I'm also excited for getting more information. So, for example, think of like medical research. Medical research could be done by interviewing a bunch of people and asking like, hey, John, do you sleep 5 hours a night or 8 hours a night? When's the last time you ate an Oreo cookie? When's the last time you took a vitamin B supplement? And I think that type of interview and data collection right now is super expensive, but I think there might be a world where people are more open to interviewing with AI for data collection so that we can then figure out things to help make everyone healthier and happier. Like maybe, like how much water you should drink a day, how far you should run. Should I do a stair machine over a treadmill? These are the types of things that like is anecdotal when like everyone has their own opinion, but with AI you could collect all of this data and start getting some really cool research and help people live longer, happier lives.
Sure. I think there have been use cases of AI machines talking to each other, which like kind of brings up the conversation. It's almost like we've created another like being, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that there's anything tied with aliens and then artificial intelligence?
There are people who certainly seem to think that. They might think like this is like some consciousness that some like ethereal whatever entity is attaching to. I haven't seen any data to support that. My biggest fear when it comes to AI is that we always tell the AI in its prompts that it's a really smart AI, and then we have all of this pop culture where the AI always turns evil. There's a part of me that's like, let's stop making pop culture where AI turns evil, or let's call it something new. Because if I was like, hey, you're an e-commerce manager, and you're like, well, every e-commerce manager I've seen from TV goes AWOL and rogue, then all of a sudden you're going to be fighting that urge if you're like, well, I guess I got to be a good e-commerce manager. So I don't think it's as much aliens, but Skynet is probably something that it's funny. I feel like there's like this spectrum of people, and like the people who are barely aware of AI think that Skynet's not really, or they think like, okay, Skynet's going to be a thing.
What is Skynet? Sorry, what's Skynet?
Skynet, like Terminator, like the AI that takes over everything, right?
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I think if you understand a little bit about AI, or like maybe nothing at all, you're like, yep, the Terminators are coming, they're going to take over the world. And then there's like a group of people who have spent maybe like 1 to 40 hours understanding AI, and this group of people is like, nah, it's not possible. AI only does what you program it to do. But like anybody who has been researching this, or like, in this for more than 40, 80, 300 hours, I don't know a single one that isn't like, yeah, there is a real possibility of the AI going rogue and doing some weird stuff. So that's always something that, you want to keep in the back of your mind. I kind of think it's going to be like the world of Harry Potter, where like if you've got like one really evil dude who's really powerful, he gets stopped by a bunch of less powerful good dudes. I would hope that a bunch of good AI could fight the bad AI in the future war for humanity.
Who else at Pattern are you having these conversations with around AI, and also who at Pattern you love working with or inspires you.
Yeah, so we're definitely talking to the CEO about the Terminator problem, but they're aware. No, but in terms of inspiring is what AI really does is it kind of lets everybody get to where they can become maybe not quite an expert, but like get really knowledgeable right away. So imagine if you wanted to plant a garden in your backyard and you're not really like an expert, you don't have a green thumb. AI can help you get to that level way faster. And what that means is that you can start having like deeper, more meaningful conversations with people that otherwise their level of skill set was way outside your wheelhouse, if that makes sense. And so like
Totally.
whether it's our CMO and her in-depth experience with like Amazon and marketing, or our CFO and his deep understanding of cash flow, or really any role within Pattern, we've got so many people that are experts in their niches. And what AI kind of lets you do is it lets you understand the basics well enough that you can start having very strategic conversations, which means that as a business leader, you don't need to compartmentalize and offshore all these responsibilities. Humans are pretty good at learning new things.
That's a great answer. Last question. Where do you see Pattern in 1 year from now? And then where do you see Pattern in 10 years from now?
So 1 year from now, I see Pattern on a weekly basis publishing very powerful insights like, did you know that in the toys category, having a dog in the image is increasing conversion by 15%? Like things like that maybe people never thought of. And that's going to be because you're going to pair our data labeling with all of the performance indicators we have across the market. And so I see over the next year us getting to the point where like you're going to start getting this very in-depth level and nuanced level of analysis per category. And so maybe having, for example, a dog in the image works really, really well with toddler toys, but not so much with like toys for kids 5 through 8, but then ages 9 through 12, it works really well again. Like, and I'm just making that up, but my point is that I think a year from now, you're going to start seeing the culmination of all of this data and all of this labeling to start produce very niche marketplace category specific insights that are usable, actionable for the brands we work with. 10 years from now, nobody's going to be working in robots will take over. But if we're talking about like 7 years from now, I'm just joking, sort of. If we're talking about like, let's say 10 years from now, what I see is I see Pattern being in a position where people who own and manage brands can focus on the things that they love, whether it's understanding their customer, whether it's developing new product. And I see Pattern being in a position where what we can do is we can help people focus on what they're passionate about, give them all the data that they want associated with that, but then handle kind of all the stuff they don't want to work with. So imagine like a world where you're managing a brand and you've got a background in marketing, so you're really hands-on on marketing. But maybe your neighbor is managing a brand and she is an engineer. She was really passionate about the physical design, but doesn't really care about the marketing at all. And so I see that like people will have the luxury of focusing on the problems that interest them, and then with someone like Pattern relying on our expertise for everything else. And it might be that for both of those two scenarios, we're really good at the engineering and we're really good at the marketing, but we're going to let you be involved at the level that makes you represent your brand to the best of your ability.
I loved it, man. Thank you so much for coming on Pattern Unboxed. We certainly unboxed a lot about AI, and you can come on and talk to us about aliens and AI whenever, but thank you so much.
2027, that's the year they say the aliens are coming, if you believe Twitter. But if you believe Twitter, Trump and Elon are going to become friends again. So I don't know.
Let's hope. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Sweet.